What do you do when a monstrous hurricane swallows everything you own? A Port St. Joe minister is tasked now with putting his own family back together and with helping an entire community find hope and healing after the storm. News 5's Drexel Gilbert is on the road tonight with the story of faith and hope for the future.
This Bible once belonged to my great-grandfather, who was a Methodist preacher, and then it belonged to my grandfather, who was a Methodist preacher.
Dr. Jeffrey Lentz comes from a long line of ministers dedicated to helping others. In fact, the Port St. Joe pastor was returning from a ministry trip to Africa. As Michael chased his family.
She had about 6 hours to grab our belongings.
And smacked his community.
We expected a little bit of water, but we didn't expect the strength of the storm.
Lentz's wife Liz and their 2 children evacuated to Pensacola with little more than what they were wearing.
My son stayed up with me till after midnight preparing the house, and it didn't matter. It was all gone anyways.
Returning to Port St. Joe was a punch in the gut.
I knew that we wouldn't have much standing.
His home, the church parsonage, gone.
You could see in one end and out the other.
For blocks and blocks, our possessions are everywhere.
His church in tatters, his community torn apart. Lentz wept for his loss and the loss of others who he fears may be forgotten.
Because most people don't know about Port St. Joe, and nobody knows about Mexico Beach until it's wiped away. And so I want people to remember it.
And so Jeffrey and Liz work to keep focus on the cruelty of the storm in this community.
It's okay to admit that our community as we know it is over, and we need to grieve it.
But also focusing on the future by taking things slowly.
When I don't have all the answers, I just say I know what I'm doing today, or at least for the next hour.
Cherishing what Michael didn't gobble up, a Bible, a cross, and an outside cat they were forced to leave at home.
When I grabbed that cat, I just wept and was just delighted that, hey, there's our first survivor.
And to find resurrection in the grief.
And resurrection doesn't mean that everything's going to continue the same way. It means that there is an ending. There is deconstruction, the destruction. There is nothingness and despair. But in the midst of that, somehow, miraculously, I guess, there is a new beginning.
On the road with photojournalist Dan Kettinger, I'm Drexel Gilbert, WKRG News 5.